I think one of the saddest things I've ever realized about young me, young Starlet, is that people who loved her best were usually children too. And children are not built to carry the kind of things that those girls were carrying. Hey y'all, welcome back to Behind the Episode, the Writer's Room. This is My Life in the Sunshine, Season 2, Episode number 2. And child, this one sat with me for a while after I finished writing it. Not because it was, I'm thinking the word loud. Not because it was so loud, it was loud for me in my head. It was also quiet. There's not a lot going on in the episode. Sometimes the quiet episodes are the dangerous ones. The loud episodes, as you all know, are the ones that tell you exactly where the explosions are, right? The quiet ones, those are usually where somebody lit the match. This episode is deceptively soft in that manner because not a lot happens in the traditional sense. Nobody gets dragged out of a window. Nobody sets anything on fire. Nobody gets a huge stage presence or big movie scene. But emotionally, everything shifts. This is the episode where Starlet starts learning something that will follow her for years. Silence keeps you alive. And because she learns that, she also starts learning how to disappear while still standing in the room. That's the real story, I think, underneath the episode. It's not just about distance or any type of abuse. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's also not just about survival. I feel like, and I'm the writer, but I'm also learning in real time as I write. It feels like it's also about adaptation. The tiny psychological adjustments children make in order to survive in those environments that were never designed to protect them. Q, yeah. Whew. Let's talk about Q. Okay, because what surprised me while I was writing this episode was realizing how much Q actually loved Starlet, before either one of them had a language for what they were doing for each other. And I need y'all to really hear me when I say this. Q was not just Starlet's BFF. She was safety. She was a witness. She was somebody else inside that container, inside that room saying, no, I saw that too. You're not crazy. That matters. Especially for children, especially for girls growing up in environments where secrets are treated like family heirlooms. There's a very specific intimacy between girls who survive the same environment differently. That's what I started realizing while I was writing season 2. Season 1 was more memory. Season 2, I would say, is more consequent. I'm not just writing what happened. I'm writing what those things cost. When I started revisiting Q through that lens, I realized something uncomfortable. Friendships don't usually explode because of one betrayal. That's not normally how it happens. Most friendships begin ending quietly, tiny fractures. One person changing, the other person staying emotionally frozen in the role that they learned during survival. One person needing to grow, the other person needing things to stay emotionally familiar. And before y'all start typing paragraphs in my comments, I'm not saying either one of those girls is a villain. I actually think that that's what makes this particular relationship or friendship towards the end a bit sad, or maybe even the entirety of the relationship a bit sad. I think they loved each other for real. I think they needed each other for real. And I think some people save your life in one season and still they cannot survive you becoming who you need to be in the next one. That realization changed how I wrote this episode. And this is where I need people to understand something important. Starlet and Q do not exist on an island in this episode. That would actually make the emotional collapse between them much simpler, cleaner even. But life is rarely clean, and neither are girl friendships. So, ooh, that's good. Because by season 2, other girls have entered the ecosystem, and every single one of them represents a different possibility for who Starlet could become, which means every single one of them quietly changes the emotional gravity between Starlet and Q. Let's start with Julie. Julie is significant because she represents emotional generosity without survival attached to it. Julie feeds people, Julie holds people, Julie creates emotional space for people. And that matters for Starlet because she has spent most of her life believing that love must be earned through suffering. And Julie comes along and disrupts that belief for her. She offers care without humiliation. And for a girl like Starlet, that kind of tenderness can feel almost destabilizing. And then there's Heather. Heather is important because she represents another world entirely, not just financially, emotionally. Heather moves through life, she moves through life assuming that she deserves the softness. And Starlet is fascinated by that. Not jealous, but fascinated. Because when you grow up surviving the chaos, people who expect generosity and gentleness can almost feel fictional. So Heather becomes one of the first girls who quietly expands Starlet's understanding of what girlhood could even look like. And whether Q realizes it or not, that changes things. Now, Jeanette. Ooh. I'm gonna use the word dangerous to describe Jeanette. And she's dangerous in a completely different way because Jeanette sees. She observes before she speaks. She studies people. She notices inconsistencies. And Starlet is deeply drawn to people who can see her clearly. Being seen clearly is not always comfortable, especially for someone who survives partially through performance. Now keep in mind, Starlet and Jeanette formed this friendship back in, I don't know if I ever named it on the page, but it was age 9, 10. So we're talking about the 4th grade, and now they're in high school. So at this point, Jeanette starts asking Starlet emotional questions that Starlet has been avoiding for a long time. And once somebody starts helping you name your patterns, you can't fully go back to just being unconscious, okay? That shifts the friendship as well. And then there's Becky. Becky represents movement, okay? Momentum, decisions, fast decisions. She doesn't sit in pain very long. She pivots, she acts. And so it feels familiar to Starlet. Becky's the newest friendship. I think Becky's good for Starlet because she names things, and Starlet is magnetized by that energy because she spends so much of her life emotionally circling things before touching them. And Becky just cuts the room. She cuts through the room. And Q stabilizes the rooms. Those are very different energies. And when a girl begins evolving emotionally, spiritually, creatively, the people around her start interacting with different versions of her. And that's what you see here. That's what I think people need to pay attention to while reading this season. Not just who betrayed her, but who was each girl, each of them, all of them, who were they becoming? And who did that evolution unintentionally leave behind? Yep, I planted some more breadcrumbs. Because suddenly I wasn't just writing friendship scenes anymore. I was writing emotional arcs. I was writing what and where did the cracks start? When did these girls begin needing different things from each other? When did loyalty stop feeling safe? When did survival start pulling them in opposite directions? And child, that's where careful readers need to pay attention because I planted breadcrumbs all throughout this episode. Tiny ones, the kind you don't notice until later. The way Q names things directly while Starlet intellectualizes them. The way Q often says the thing Starlet is emotionally circling around. The subtle shift from we language into I language. The emotional imbalance beginning to form between them. And the biggest breadcrumb of all, Starlet is constantly searching for transformation, whereas Q is searching for stability, and those are not the same thing. And eventually, those two desires, they do collide. One thing I've learned about plot twists while writing this series is that the best twists don't just surprise you. They change the meaning of everything that came before them. That's the kind of storytelling I'm trying to build with these friendships. So when the audience eventually reaches the breaking point between Starlet and Q, I don't want people thinking, oh my God, where did that come from? My desire as the writer is that the readers will go back and reread some old scenes with a completely different lens. That's the goal in terms of me enjoying you enjoying the work. And honestly, that's why I love writing about women, especially complicated women, especially Black girls. People are so used to reducing female friendships down to she was jealous, or she switched up, or she betrayed her. But sometimes the tragedy is a lot deeper than that. Sometimes both girls were carrying wounds too heavy for children. Sometimes one girl becomes a version of survival the other one can't sustain forever. And sometimes love is real and still not enough to save the friendship. Now, I want to ask y'all something, and I really want you to think about this before you answer, because I've been thinking about Starlet and Q a lot lately. Girls don't usually go from I'd burn the world down for you to silence without something catastrophic happening between them. So here's my question. What do you think happened between season 1 and season 2 that eventually led to the explosive ending of Starlet and Q's friendship? And more importantly, do you think friendships usually end because of betrayal or because one person finally changes? I'm serious. I'm reading the comments because some of y'all are catching things I intentionally planted, and some of y'all are catching things I didn't even realize that I buried in there, which honestly is terrifying. Okay, before I go, I wanna leave y'all with this. I think this episode taught me that sometimes the people who save us during one chapter of our lives are not always meant to travel with us into the next one. And I don't think that automatically makes anybody, I'll use an old reference, evil. Sometimes it just makes everybody human. Listen, we all have our own lives to live. All right, y'all. Season 2, episode 2 of My Life in the Sunshine is live. Go read it and then come back here and tell me what you think about what really happened between Starlet and Q. Because I promise you this, the fracture did not begin where people think it did. I'll see you on the next Behind the Episode in the writer's room. Oh, before I go, I have a special guest I want to introduce you to. I'm actually staying in his house. You want to meet him? You want to meet my special guest? Pie. Pie. Pie, come here. Pie. Okay, you're making me look really bad. You've been walking around my feet this whole episode, and now you're just... This is Pie. You wanna say hi to everybody? Say hello. I am dog sitting Pie. He is a 12-year-old Havanese. I think I'm saying it right, Havanese? Yeah, a sweet boy. So I'm staying in Pie's house. And that's about it. I'll see y'all next time. Say bye, Pie. Bye. Bye, y'all. You want to get down? Oh, you? No? Okay, I'm gonna stay. I'm just gonna stay here and drink. Ugh. All right. Cut it.